Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and thanks for joining me again. This week I'm in my local woodland where I'm going to try and capture some of this fantastic autumn colour that's started to develop. Now we're in the first half of October at the moment, so it's still quite early, although some of the trees like the silver birch behind me have started to show a bit of colour, so I thought I'd come out and try and capture that. So it can be a little bit funny in the UK if you get a few storms rolling through over a couple of weeks. The leaves on the trees can basically get wiped out and the colour's gone before you know it. So I thought I'd come out and try and capture something. I'm also on the hunt for some autumn detail, such as mushrooms, fungus, and anything else that catches my eye basically. Some sort of intimate macro shots, and we're going to give that a go. I brought like a new lens with me, which is sort of a 10 times magnification lens, which I suppose is some kind of replacement for a macro lens or extension tubes. So I'm going to try and give that a go. I've never really used it, and I want to try and get in close and capture some of that fantastic detail. So I'm going to have a look around now and see what we can come up with. So let's go. Alright, so I've been walking around for about an hour now and I've come across this really nice scene with these two silver birches. You've got some really nice ferns in the foreground there, providing some really nice colour. Got some golden sort of yellows and browns mixed in with the greens, so it looks really good. Also you've got the nice sort of silver birch textures in the bark, and the silver and the black areas look really nice and contrasty. And there's plenty of detail there, and I think it's a really nice sort of typical woodland scene, this. Like I said, you got one on each side sort of framing the scene, and then going through the scene, creating some depth, is some more trees, silver birches and things like that. So yeah, it looks really nice. The light's changing all the time, so I'm just going to sort of stand here for sort of 10-15 minutes and see if I can get a nice image with the light coming through. We're getting some nice side light coming through the canopy there. It's overcast today, but there's some nice breaks in the clouds, so when the sun comes through it looks really nice. And it really makes those colours pop. I've got a polarizer on the camera, like I do in all woodland scene now. I basically use it just to sort of increase the contrast and bring out the colours. And obviously if it's raining or anything like that, it'll sort of take off any sheen from any wet leaves and things. So it's a really good thing to use with woodland photography. So I'll be shooting at about f11 to make sure everything's nice and sharp from front to back. I should be able to get it in one shot, but you know, we'll see how we go. We'll check it on the back of the screen and see if everything's nice and sharp. I'm not too bothered if it goes a little bit soft at the back, because obviously I want to try and create some depth in the image, and you know, as you go sort of through the woodland, I'm not too bothered if it's like a little bit soft. Also I'll be bracketing the shot as well, because when the sun comes through it is quite bright as well, so just to cover all the bases I'll take a few different exposures just to make sure I've got all the information. So I'll take that shot and put it on screen for you, and let me know down below what you think. Okay, so I really hope you like that image. I'm going to go back down to another part of the woods where I saw some little mushrooms growing out of a log, so I'm going to try and get a bit creative and see if I can capture something with those. I've got this lens, this sort of magnification lens I talked about earlier, and I want to give that a go and see what kind of results I can get with it. So let's go. Okay, so I've just come across this really nice scene here with these mushrooms at the base of the tree with the ferns sticking out. So I'm going to take a shot of this, and I just thought I'd set up my composition and explain to you how I take this shot and what things I look for when I'm setting up a shot like this. So I'm going to set the camera up now into position, and I'll talk you through basically what I'm looking for when I'm taking a shot like this. So I'll move the camera now and pop it into position. So obviously the first thing I do is try and get the tripod as low as possible. This allowed me to get sort of like an eye level view, and something you don't normally see when you're walking around in the woodland. The next thing is just to sort of zoom in as much as I can and get rid of any of the distractions at the side of the tree or behind the tree. There's quite a lot sort of leaves and debris, so I want to try and eliminate distractions there. Also I've with the ferns here, if you can just see the tips of the ferns, I've made sure they're not sort of breaking the side of the frame there, so they wouldn't be cut off and look a bit distracting. So again, just make sure you're sort of doing an edge patrol and checking there's no distractions. There's 1 or 2 mushrooms at the top there, but we'll have to deal with those afterwards in post. The next thing is sort of with these subjects, to make sure you've got that where you want it in your frame. So here I've got the mushrooms as my main subject, and these 2 ferns here as the secondary ones. So I'm going to make sure they're nice and sharp. Now for the settings, it's quite dark in this woodland, so I'm going to have to get quite a fast and shutter speed, because it's there's a little bit of a breeze and it's moving these ferns around. So if I want them sharp, I'm going to have to up the ISO a little bit. So onto ISO 400, and shutter speed is going to be around 1/25 of a second. That might not be quite fast enough, but we'll just see. Might have to go a little bit faster and up the ISO a little bit more. I'm also on F11 just to make sure everything's nice and sharp. Everything's more or less in the same plane of field there, so it should be all in focus, but I might just take a few different focus points just to make sure, and I can have a look at that when I get back on computer. So I'll put that on screen for you now, and let me know what you think. Okay, so I've arrived at the last location I want to shoot today, and basically it's back to where I started, near the car park. And there's these fantastic old logs which line the path going through the woods, and they're covered in this nice green moss, and they've got these little mushrooms on them, white mushrooms, and I think they'll make a really interesting shot if I can get the right angle. So I'm going to have a play around with the camera now and see if I can come up with a really interesting composition. Okay, like I said earlier, I'm going to try this close-up filter by Newer. It's a +10 magnification, so I'm going to give that a go. I've never used it before. I'm going to try and get in close to these mushrooms and get something really interesting and detailed. So I'm going to put that on now and then set up a composition and see what I can come up with. Basically, I've got the camera positioned here quite close with the magnification lens on. I've got these 2 mushrooms as the subject. I've got this green moss as the background. That's provided a nice sort of plain background that's not going to be distracting. So these are going to really stand out on the image there. Basically, I'm shooting it between sort of about 1 and 5 seconds, because it is quite dark in here. There is sort of bands of light coming through now and again, so obviously that's changing the exposure. I'm shooting at f5 to make sure I get a nice shallow depth of field, so I can get these sort of 2 mushrooms in focus and sort of blur the background slightly, but I'm taking some f11 as well just to see what I think, and ISO like 200. So again that's the settings. So I'll put them on screen for you now and just let me know what you think. Okay, so I'm going to end the video there. Thanks for watching if you've stuck to it till the end. It's been nothing too strenuous today, just a nice sort of woodland walk if you like, just to have a look if there's anything interesting. Really enjoyed using that new piece of kit, the magnification lens. I think it's really come in handy when taking those mushrooms. Just one thing to mention with that one, I've actually focus stacked it, so I've focused on the top of the mushroom and then the moss underneath, I've focused on that, and I'm going to blend the 2 images together in Photoshop. That's going to produce the best result. So I've used quite a wide aperture, so the basically the depth of field is really shallow, so I want to be able to do one or the other, so I've done them separately. I'm going to put those together afterwards. So if you like the images in this week's video, please give it a comment down below and give it a thumbs up, and also if you've not done so already, please subscribe to the channel for future content.